1946, World War II had just ended, and European states were poised to build a brave new world. It was remarkable that in the midst of a harsh economic depression, large-scale infrastructure projects were born, intended to unite former enemies. One such symbol of the new era of friendship was the Mont Blanc Tunnel under the main Alpine peak, located on the French-Italian border. Construction of the tunnel, which began on the Italian side a year after the end of the major conflict of the 20th century with a nominal laying of the first 100 meters, stretched over a long period. Only in 1959 did the implementation of this important object in the North-South European transport corridor enter an active phase. Its construction was of particular significance for Italy, whose economically developed north was highly interested in the new Transalpine corridor, which allowed for the shortening of distances and simplified the export of goods to neighboring countries, primarily to France. Just 3 years later, the French and Italian construction teams, moving 2 kilometers underground towards each other under Mont Blanc, met. 4.5 million man-hours, 711 tons of explosives, 555,000 cubic meters of extracted rock, 60,000 tons of cement, and 771,000 bolts. Behind these numbers hides the titanic labor that resulted in an 11.611-kilometer tunnel, which immediately proved its necessity. Its grand opening, attended by the President of France and his Italian colleague, took place in 1965 after all the construction work was completed. As is customary in capitalist countries, the construction was not a charitable action. The Mont Blanc Tunnel was, and remains, a highly profitable enterprise. To save time and a few dozen kilometers of road, one has to pay, and not a little. For a single use of the tunnel, a standard car driver now has to pay 42 to 43 euros, depending on the country of entry. The cost of a single trip under Mont Blanc by truck exceeds 300 euros. It was in this engineering marvel, built by 2 prosperous European countries, that something happened in 1999 that seemed impossible. An ordinary engine fire, due to a tragic chain of events, grew into a large-scale tragedy, resulting in the loss of nearly 4 dozen lives. On the morning of March 24th at 10:46 a.m., a truck entered the Mont Blanc Tunnel from the French side. In the refrigerated Belgian truck were 12 tons of flour and 9 tons of margarine, a detail that seemed insignificant but played a role in the disaster. At the wheel of the Volvo was 57-year-old Gilbert de Grave, an experienced driver with 25 years of experience. During the inspection of the truck before its entry, Tunnel Technical Services noticed nothing suspicious. However, white smoke from the engine appeared almost immediately after the truck entered the depths of the main Alpine mountain. De Grave did not notice it immediately and managed to drive about 6 kilometers, just over half the length of the tunnel, before the signals from oncoming cars forced him to stop. Events then unfolded rapidly. At 10:53, the Volvo stopped near emergency shelter number 22. Small rooms with heat-resistant doors were located throughout the tunnel every 600 meters. Initially, de Grave tried to extinguish the fire himself with a standard car fire extinguisher, but at that moment, the spark turned into a flame. Seconds after de Grave exited the cabin, it was engulfed in fire, which quickly spread to the cargo hold. The engine exploded, de Grave later recounted emotionally. Within half a minute, the entire truck was on fire. I ran for my life, and behind me, the gates of hell opened. Within a few minutes, the tunnel turned into a huge oven. Following the Belgian truck, at least 10 cars and 24 trucks entered the tunnel from the French side. Almost all of them were trapped under the mountain by the Volvo's stop and the fire's rapid spread. Oncoming vehicles from Italy managed to drive past or turn around and exit. The French were less lucky. On that spring day, a pleasant southern wind blew from Italy. This natural factor, combined with the tunnel's profile, meant that smoke was blown entirely into the French part of the tunnel, saving lives in the Italian half but dooming many drivers in the French section. The insulation foam in the burning refrigerator truck produced a very acrid, toxic, dense black smoke that filled the French part of the tunnel within seconds. The melted margarine from the fire turned into excellent fuel, spreading across the road and igniting neighboring vehicles. The tunnel turned into a death trap for the drivers inside. Zero visibility, the inability to turn around, and toxic smoke quickly took their toll. Just 2 minutes after the Volvo stopped at 10:55, with the fire alarm activated, the French blocked their portal. Another minute later, the Italians stopped entry into the tunnel, but it was too late. At 10:58, the French fire brigade unsuccessfully tried to reach the fire. The smoke obscured visibility, stifled car engines, and the firefighters had to save their own lives by taking shelter in an emergency refuge. It was the smoke, not the fire, that primarily caused the deaths. When a fire starts in a tunnel, it behaves differently than in an open space. The confined area causes the fire to spread quickly, fueled by the oxygen in the air. The fire also produces a large amount of heat, which can cause the air to expand and create a pressure wave. This pressure wave can push the fire and heat further into the tunnel, making it difficult to escape. The fire also produces toxic fumes, including carbon monoxide and particulate matter, which can be deadly in enclosed spaces. Ventilation systems in tunnels are designed to remove heat and smoke from the area. However, if the ventilation system is not functioning properly, it can actually make the situation worse. The ventilation system can spread the fire and heat further into the tunnel, making it harder to escape. The ventilation system can also create a phenomenon called backdrafting, where the fire is drawn back into the tunnel, creating a more intense fire. The toxic fumes produced by a tunnel fire can be deadly. Carbon monoxide, in particular, is a silent killer that can cause unconsciousness and death in minutes. The fumes can also cause respiratory problems and other health issues. The fumes can also reduce visibility, making it difficult to escape the tunnel. The combination of heat, smoke, and toxic fumes can create a deadly environment that can be difficult to survive. Italian technical services tried to help but inadvertently worsened the situation. Seeing drivers running out of the tunnel and receiving reports of smoke, they intensified the tunnel's ventilation, hoping to give trapped people more oxygen. However, this oxygen only fueled the fire and increased the scale of the blaze. Rescue services could do nothing. The tunnel burned for 53 hours until there was nothing left to burn. The true hero of this tragedy was Italian Pierlucio Tenazzi. He was an employee of the Italian tunnel operator and patrolled it on a motorcycle. Upon receiving information about the emergency, Tenazzi immediately rushed to help on his BMW K75. He managed to save about 10 people, most of whom were already unconscious and doomed, before he suffocated himself. The melted remains of his motorcycle were later found by rescuers at the fire's epicenter. In total, 39 people died in the Mont Blanc tragedy, 37 drivers, Pierlucio Tenazzi, and one firefighter who tried to take refuge. The emergency shelters proved useless. Their doors were designed to withstand fire for only 2 hours, not the 53-hour blaze that rescuers couldn't contain. 27 drivers suffocated and subsequently burned in their vehicles, while 10 others tried to escape the smoke but failed. They were found 100, 200, even 500 meters from their cars. Desperate attempts to survive in the toxic smoke were doomed to fail. The disaster severely damaged about 1,200 meters of the tunnel, destroyed emergency shelters, melted asphalt and ceiling linings. 2 fire trucks, 23 trucks, 10 cars, and 1 motorcycle were incinerated. The Mont Blanc road was closed for 3 years, and the tunnel's reconstruction cost €400 million. In 2005, a court trial concluded, finding 13 people guilty, mainly employees of both French and Italian tunnel operators. Almost all received suspended sentences and fines. Only the head of the French Safety Service received 6 months in jail. The immediate cause was identified as the fire in Gilbert de Grave's Volvo engine, but this alone could not have caused a disaster of such scale. In the 34 years of the tunnel's operation, such incidents had occurred 16 times, but engine fires had been extinguished with fire extinguishers. This time, the fire quickly spread to the trailer, producing acrid smoke, and the wind blew the smoke into the French part of the tunnel. The uncoordinated actions of the operators during the rescue efforts, which led to the forced ventilation of the tunnel by the Italian side, worsened the situation. Finally, the events under Mont Blanc exposed the total inadequacy of the safety system for potential emergencies. To prevent a recurrence of such a catastrophe, the safety system in the tunnel was upgraded. First, a single joint organization was established to eliminate potential coordination issues. Second, all trucks are now allowed entry only after inspection, with special areas set up on both sides of Mont Blanc. Third, During the tunnel's reconstruction, additional emergency exits and shelters were created, connected by a parallel pedestrian tunnel with its own ventilation system. An emergency station, equipped with special fire trucks, was set up in the center of the tunnel near the disaster site. The entire tunnel was equipped with surveillance cameras and thousands of additional heat sensors. Stopping in the tunnel is categorically prohibited. If your vehicle breaks down, it will be evacuated at a very high cost. All vehicles must travel at speeds between 50 and 70 kilometers per hour, maintaining at least 150 meters between vehicles, at least 100 meters when stopping. Moreover, upon entering the tunnel, each driver must tune into a special radio station for emergency alerts. The comprehensive measures taken are so thorough that a repeat of the 1999 tragedy is unlikely. It's a pity that two respectable European countries needed 39 human lives to learn this lesson. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to our channel to hear more stories about the most interesting events in the world.